All right, I've got a great show for you today. We're going to be going through some of the biggest stories in the news and in pop culture and in politics. To help me do that, I have a special guest, Shamika Michelle. Shamika, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So, people have maybe seen you over on Newsmax. You go on there pretty regularly. I came across you from Newsmax and your Twitter feed, and as I told you off camera, I thought this lady has a lot of common sense, and so wanted your help to go through a couple of big stories. As you know, right now, the left and the mainstream media they're trying to do this hit job on Janet Jackson. They're trying to cancel her, although I believe she's uncancelable, only because she's a good person, right? But wanted to just go through this with you. She recently gave a rare interview with The Guardian. The reporter tried to get her to endorse Kamala Harris. A little bit sneaky the way that the question was worded. And as you know, they've been trying to go after other big performers like Taylor Swift and others, but she was not wanting to give up her endorsement. And during the interview, she said she didn't believe that Kamala Harris was black. Now the world's going crazy. People over on The View are losing their minds. They're divided. Whoopi Goldberg's trying to defend her. The other women are blasting her. What are your thoughts on her coming out and saying that she didn't directly want to endorse Kamala Harris and also wasn't sure that she was black?
I'm with you. I don't think she's cancelable. We saw that with Nipplegate. People got quiet for a little while, but then we love Janet, right? We love the Jackson family. And when it comes to the women on The View, we all know that they're pretty much trash, in my opinion. A lot of the things that they say is just really racial division. They claim that it's on the right, but it's really on the left. And so I'm perfectly fine with her having questions, because I am one of the people that think that Kamala is a Indian Rachel Dolezal. She kind of puts out there what she thinks Black people would like, the whole collard green, fiasco, saying that she had to make so many, she made them in a bathtub. That's disgusting, number one. We don't clean greens in the bathtub. So I think that she's just trying a little bit too hard. And I'm glad that Janet loved her brother enough to remember when Trump was actually advocating for him, saying, hey, he's around my kids all the time, and I don't believe that he's a pedophile. And she just could not endorse Kamala, which they would have taken as some type of hate against Trump. So I'm glad she didn't buy into it. And she said what she said. I'm completely okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, her response wasn't that she's not black. It was that I heard that she's not black, meaning she didn't grow up with maybe what some would say a black experience of America. Right. She didn't grow up as a foundational Black American. She didn't come from history of slavery or anything like that. And so now, Whoopi Goldberg said, hey, listen, maybe she's not very educated on this stuff and she just needs grace. But some of the others, for example, Anna Navarro, said that Janet Jackson is spreading misinformation and is dangerous, wanting her to be shut down for questioning. I know you've seen this on the internet, but up until just a few years ago, almost everything that Kamala said or portrayed to the world was about her Indian heritage. So anyone who doesn't know a lot about politics that goes online and looks at someone's past, they would say, oh, wait a minute, this person is probably culturally an Indian based on their clothes, based on the food that they eat, based on the photos that they share on social media. Would you have maybe surmised the same thing just doing a history, check on her?
Absolutely. I believe when she won the Senate, they kind of praised her for being the first Asian American or whatever. They never even discussed her being Black. So I would have the same questions. And I don't take offense when people say that. It really bothers me, honestly, that Black people are so easily tricked and duped that they would just, go with anything. People are saying, well, she went to Howard University. So did Rachel Dolezal. And her parents came out and said, no, we're white, and so is Rachel. So going to Howard means nothing. If you want to try to get some type of Black experience, and HBCU is kind of the place to go to do that. So I don't understand why people are so offended by the question. This woman herself never really said she was Black. And even with her father being Jamaican, that absolutely means nothing, because it doesn't mean that he's Black. It means he's Jamaican. And I think that that's what she kind of tried to run with. And even her father is staying quiet. So we have to kind of look at that and wonder why.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research on her father. And he lives very close to her vice presidential house, and he did not go to the inauguration. He's never shown up for any of her events or major speaking engagements. When she came out and said, of course I've smoked marijuana, I've got Jamaican descent. He said, your grandmother and grandparents would be embarrassed of you associating our good name with pot smoking Jamaicans that don't amount to much. Like he seemed to want to distance himself from her. And so anyway, I wanted to get your take on that, because again, just doing history, checks on past people, it's all showing that she appeared to be of Indian descent. So to have Janet Jackson, this treasure. In fact, there's somebody that follows you on Twitter, and you probably don't know them because you have a lot of followers, but they said, I support Janet Jackson. She uplifts Black Americans, and Kamala Harris arrested Black Americans. Probably pointing to the fact that it has now been proven that she broke up a lot of Black families in California. She arrested a lot of Black men on marijuana charges, even though she admitted to smoking marijuana herself. And then
while listening to Tupac in college, don't forget that part. And he wasn't even out while she was in college. So that was one lie people should pay attention to as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that one. And then it's also been proven that she held Black men in jail in California for longer than their sentencing in order to give the state of California free labor or cheap labor. I mean, to me, this would be really a hard pill to swallow. And yet, because they have $1 billion to polish her image and make her look like this, upstanding character, a lot of people have fallen for these stories to the point of canceling Janet Jackson, or at least trying to.
I think a lot of Black people suffer from Stockholm syndrome because, I would have thought that they would not have gone to the polls to vote for Joe Biden. The person that bragged about, the Biden bill, the bill that caused mass incarceration in the Black community. I would have thought they wouldn't have gone out for Jim Crow Joe, yet they did. Not only did they go out to the polls, although I don't completely believe the election was fair, let me be clear. Not only did they go out to the polls, they celebrated. We saw in so many places them in the streets doing the electric slide, like Jim Crow Joe had actually come to save them. I saw them referring to him as Uncle Joe. And so it just shocked me that we know exactly what, the three strikes law did to the Black community. We understand that, yet people acted as if, oh, this is a new man, this is a new guy, we're going out to the poll because Orange Man bad, and actually voted for him. So I'm not even shocked that people would say, okay, we have these people coming out saying that Kamala held Black men for longer periods of time. There are women who've said, my child was battling sickle cell anemia, and still she brought charges against me for my child who was in the hospital, missing school for long periods of time. We've seen so many examples that Kamala is not this great person that they're trying to make her out to be, yet people are still saying, I'm with her. So I don't understand what it has to take, but apparently for some, they have to actually hit the bottom before they realize they should have been paying attention.
Yeah, well said. Wanted to get your thoughts on this. Right now, Donald Trump is leading by quite a lot in many states, but specifically, there's a new poll out from CNN which shows that he is up between 11 and 14 points, depending on the poll, over Kamala Harris on the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy typically ends up being people's number one concern. Now, with everything terrible that's going on at the border, that the border has, risen to be in the top three. But usually it's the economy. Can I get a job? Can I make enough money to put food on the table, a roof over our head? Can I have and raise children? Why do you think that Americans are so nervous about Harris's economic plan and her economic experience?
I think because we see that she's claiming that she's going to do all of these things while she's in office, yet she's in office, right? And the gas is high, food is high. We're paying $4 for eggs, a dozen of eggs. And so people are really having that experience personally that you can't take from them. When they go out and they notice that their grocery bill is double or triple that it was, let's say, in 2019, 2018, people are paying attention to that. So that's not something the media can kind of twist and make you feel differently about, because that's something that people are living every day. Going to get gas in the car, that's something that people are living every day. So in my opinion, whenever Trump has the ability, or, whenever he's behind the mic, he needs to always take it back to the economy. And I know that he likes to bring up the illegal immigration. That can still tie into the economy as well, because we're seeing how they just voted in Chicago to give these illegal immigrants all of these millions of dollars. And you had the Black residents of Chicago saying, hey, we're in need. So I think that the best thing to do is to talk about money, because that people's pockets are very important to them. And when I'm talking to people, we vote as Black people Democrat 90% of the time. And most of the time it's led by women. I'm telling Black men, listen, you don't even have the choice anymore. Like, you don't have the room to play, because when you're a single mom, or if you're a mother who can't feed your child, the government steps in and give you a check. But if you're a man who's struggling to feed your child, you go to jail. So at this point, Black men need to stop following behind Black women, because it's not working for them. The matriarchy that we've been pushing in our communities is not working. So it's time for them to kind of step up and use their brains and say, listen, I love you, honey, but I can't follow behind you anymore. I need to be the leader and do what's right and what's going to make sense for my bank account.
Interesting. Okay. No, that's the gender split. That actually makes a lot of sense. I had not given that much thought. Well, you're a Black woman. Were you always Democrat? Was there a time where you said, I can't do this anymore, and walked away, or were you raised conservative?
I believe I was raised conservatively, and I just didn't realize it, just as my mom and my grandmother, they apparently haven't realized it, because we always voted Democrat. When you saw politicians coming to the church, they were Democrat politicians. And I grew up, I went to all Black schools. I was in Durham City schools at the time. We were actually the class of 1992, my high school graduating class. We were the last class of Durham City schools, and I went to a historically Black high school. So we always voted Democrat. But as I got older, And honestly, I voted for Obama simply because he was Black. But during his second term, I started to look at the things that he was pushing policy-wise, and it started to not line up with my values. And I was thinking, I'm voting wrong, and I've been voting wrong for a long time. And I kind of went through this process of questioning myself and thinking maybe something's wrong with me, that I'm seeing things differently. You know, when Trump announced that he was going to run, of course, I was on the bandwagon with a lot of people like, oh my God, he's going to, take us back to slavery. I don't think I said something that stupid, but, it was close. And but I liked him, and I understood what he was saying, and the things that he was saying made sense to me. And so I just began to question myself, like, what's wrong with me that I understand this man who everybody in my family, everybody in my community is saying is harmful and racist, and we need to run in the opposite direction of. But as I looked at my values, I realized that they lined up more with conservative values, and I just couldn't continue to vote wrong. And so it was kind of like I got into this by a fluke. I didn't know. It was like a process, though, an awakening, a gradual awakening that I've been doing this all wrong.
Okay, interesting. That's really neat to hear that perspective. I kind of came the opposite way, where I live in a very red state. I didn't know a lot of Democrats, and then I married into a family where most of them were Democrats, and it was like, okay, I can see your side. I can see your side. Almost all of them voted for Obama, and then, like you said, towards the end, once we got to Obama's second, I was like, I think my family maybe voted for the wrong person, And then by the time Trump came around, I was like, man, a lot of this stuff is making sense. We need to focus on America. We need to focus on making ourselves a safe nation, making ourselves a rich nation, quit policing the whole world, quit using the military for every little altercation around the world. I consider myself a libertarian on paper, but I usually vote conservative. But I'm anti-government, anti-taxes. So maybe that's just being a business owner more than anything. But a lot of what Trump is saying is really resonating with a lot of people, because, like, for example, how many people do you know right now that worry about what's going on between Russia and Ukraine more than they worry about putting food on the table for their babies?
I don't know any personally. Honestly, I don't. I see these people online, with the Ukraine flag in their bio, and I'm thinking, I don't know anybody personally that cares to that extent, because when you're looking your child in the face, your child doesn't want to hear anything about Ukraine, and I think one of the things that bothers me is that, again, I'm going to take this back to the Black community. We've been conditioned so long that this isn't our country. This isn't our home. We need to go back to Africa, or we should go back to Africa. And I think it just took me saying, you know what? My grandmother, who's 90 years old, has never been to Africa. There are chances I may never go to Africa. Why would I spend my entire life fantasizing about someplace that I may never see, or talking about I need to be in a place I may never go, when I need to be focused right here in America? This is my home. This is my land for generations. And so I wish that people, especially when you have those generational ties here, would realize that's a trick to get you to buy into globalism and to be looking at other countries and worried about other countries. No, we have to worry about what's going on in America and what's going on in our homes. Realistically, nobody is in their house really worrying about what the neighbor's eating. It's always about what's going on in our home. And so that's how I am.
Let me ask a clarifying question. You mentioned that it's almost like you're taught to long for Africa. Is that unique to the Black community? Because I've interviewed several Black Americans, and they've been in America longer than me.
Right.
Like my family came here from England and Scotland and Wales 5 generations ago, but I fully consider myself American. I've never been to England. I've never been to Wales. I would like to, like as a vacation, but I'm not trying to go back. Do you think that is common in the Black community?
I definitely think it's common in being taught, because we hear about slavery so much so that my kids say, I'm tired of hearing about slavery. Like it just, for them, it feels so long ago that there's no need to constantly dwell on it. But in schools, it's like they constantly push this idea that your ancestors were slaves and so you're oppressed and the white man is inherently evil. And those are the things that you hear over and over and over again. So whether they intentionally mean to push that Africa is our home and we would be safer there, that's kind of what they push, I guess inadvertently, um, because of what they constantly inundate us with, the rhetoric they kind of push on us every single year, especially in February. And they act as if hope is very small and that, this is just a racist country and there's nothing we can do about it unless we overthrow the government or something, but it's like it's constantly taught to us. um, Again, when I say that I heard family members saying you can't vote for Trump, we're going to go back. You see them even saying that rhetoric now, like we're not going back. He wants to take us back. Well, take us back to what? And they never will say slavery, but they go like right to the edge so that that's what your mind believes, because they know this is what they've been pushing on us for generations.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that it helps when a sitting president of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden, goes to Morehouse College as the invited guest speaker and tells a group of, affluent, well-educated, super intelligent Black men and women, your country hates you. It's rough out there. You're probably going to die from, like I was watching this going, wow, that's like a really terrible way to end your college experience.
Right.
I was blown away. I was blown away listening to his speech.
Yeah, I forgot about that speech. Actually, you're right. I remember hearing it and thinking, oh my God, but I totally forgot about it. Just like I forgot that his middle name was Robinette. I don't know why anybody would trust a man named Robinette to start with. But you're absolutely right. When you've gone through college and somewhere, especially, prestigious like Morehouse, to hear someone say that to you on your graduation day is simply crazy. Now, I said I forgot, but I'm pretty sure so many of them forgot too, so much so that it didn't even dawn on them that somebody was pretty much speaking death or negativity over their future after paying the thousands of dollars that they've paid to get this education so that you don't have a negative future. Yet he was saying, okay, so what? You went to Morehouse. So what? You graduated. So what? You worked hard to be better than the generation before you. So what? You're Black and you're not going to be able to do anything. That comes down from not only Joe Biden, but you see so many people on the left pushing that same narrative. And it's very frustrating because it also comes from the elite Black people like Oprah Winfrey. Oprah was dark skinned, fat, with nappy hair, raised in the South, yet she rose to be this media mogul, yet she still pushes an oppression narrative as if somebody else couldn't do the same thing. She had the talent, I assume, to get where she is. And now she turns around, instead of saying, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. She falls right in line with the whole oppression stuff. And it annoys me to no end.
Yeah. Okay. I've always heard nobody remembers what you say. They remember how they felt. I just wonder if a lot of those students, they don't remember what President Biden said, but they remember how they felt, being told by an American president, your country hates you, and like life's going to be harder for you. I just wonder if some of them left feeling a little bit down, like, I don't know. It was such a weird speech. I got to, just that very week, I interviewed Ronald Reagan's former speechwriter. I asked him about it. He said it was the worst speech he's ever seen written for a president. He's like, Joe Biden didn't write that talk himself. Someone wrote that for him, and then he just mindlessly read it. Sad. Okay, let me switch gears with you. I know we're up against time here. Just in the last week, 158 Democrats voted against a bill that would deport illegal immigrants who attack or sexually abuse women and children. I thought the Democrat Party was the party of kindness, the party that looks out for women. We will get you abortions if you need them, but if you are violated by an illegal immigrant, we're going to keep the perpetrator in the country and shame you. Why would these 158 Democrats vote against something that seems so common sense?
Because they're the party of the KKK. When it comes to the Democrats, nothing surprises me anymore, because although they try to push that they're the empathetic party, they're the party of love, they're the party of inclusion, everything that they do says that's a lie. My oldest daughter is 28 years old, and she voted for Trump in 2020 as well. And all it took was for me to take her with me. I had to speak in Beverly Hills. And all it took was for me to take her with me and for her to see people sticking up their middle finger, hollering at her mom, calling her mom a bigot and a racist, all of these things that she knows her mom is not. She looked at me and she said, "Mom, why are they calling you a bigot? They're the ones that seem like they can't accept what you're thinking, what you feel, or what you believe." And immediately, just her being in the presence and seeing what they do when you disagree just changed her mind just like that. And she's been pro-Trump ever since, because we understand that the Democrats lie. They aren't the party of kindness. They aren't the party of inclusion. And all it takes is to get a Black conservative in front of them. You see how mean and vile they are to Black conservatives online. When I'm called out of my name, it's always by a Democrat. Republicans are not calling me out of my name. Although they say, they'll never accept you, that you'll never be one of them. It always comes from the other side, all of this mean and this evilness and this calling me out of my name, because that's who they are. They are the party of the KKK, and they wrap their arms around evil. Look at the way they push abortion. Look at how they push the whole gender affirming care for kids. Who would want to see children placed on puberty blockers? I had a young man who was in the 8th grade tell me he wanted to be Spider-Man. I didn't take him to one of the highest buildings and say, "Okay, well, let me see you go out of this window and not die," because kids don't have the ability to make such grave decisions at such a young age. But here we have this party who believes that they can. They believe a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, and they care nothing about life in the womb. They are the party of not DEI, DIE, because everything they touch dies.
Yeah. That's a good point. I had the opportunity to speak with somebody about transgender issues and changing gender, and I said to them, my daughter believes that she is a pirate. She wants to wear the eye patch and all that. So next week we're having her leg sawed off and replaced with a wooden leg. And they said, "You're barbaric. That's disgusting." I'm like, "Oh, but it's okay to chop off a little boy's private parts, or
Right.
or chop off feminine parts of an adult woman, and they're like, it's totally different. Pirates are fake. It's like, oh gosh, give me a break.
Right. So it's a man claiming to be a woman. That's fake.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you one last question. I appreciate you coming on, Shamika. Why do you think all of a sudden Donald Trump has almost double the support from the Black community that he did in the past? It doesn't mean he has half of the support. I think it's around 30%. But from what I'm seeing on CNN, even MSNBC, even ABC News, they're saying that he has more than doubled in support, and a lot of that is, Black men. But what about him? Does it feel like there's more opportunity and equality, or what do you think it is?
I do think people remember when he was in office, life was better. Honestly, life was better. Prices were lower, gas was cheaper. People remember that. And I think also, like I said about my children, they're tired of hearing the whole slavery thing. I think people are tired of being jerked around by their heartstrings with this whole, he's racist. We're going to go back to the cotton fields. People are tired of that. And people want to hear about policies, especially, again, the Black men who are not given the opportunity to kind of screw up as much as Black women are. When you look, you see Black women saying, we're the most educated, and you're watching the Democrat Party prop them up as if they should be the leaders of the Black community. Whereas you have people like myself who still live in the Black community that are watching children that have been raised by single moms wreaking havoc on the city. So, we're saying, no, we can't continue to live like this. We want to go back to traditional ways of our grandparents and our great grandparents, because that seemed to work better. Kids came out a lot better, and they wanted to then grow up and get married and start a family instead of doing what they're doing now. And so I think so many people are tired of getting played, tired of getting looked down upon as if we can't understand policy, as if we don't want to provide a good life for our children. When you are constantly just saying, hey, kill your kids, you're not even believing in us that we have the ability to get married and procreate and raise a great American citizen. You're saying before they even come into the world or see the light of day, kill your kids. This is what the Democrat Party is pushing, and I think people are starting to recognize that slowly but surely. And I do think as more men, responsible men, kind of head that way, women who get tired of the irresponsible men are going to say, I got to clean myself up. I got to look a little bit better. I got to think better and deeper so that I don't get left behind. I think that the numbers will continue to grow.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I appreciate you bringing your perspective and this information. This has been a valuable conversation. Shamika, if people want to follow you online, where can I point them towards?
I always tell them just to go to my website, shamikamichelle.com. You find me there. You can find me anywhere.
Okay. I will put a direct link so that people can find it easily. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.